If you've ever started working with a new marketing client and you're really frustrated because you don't have a good content, good ideas, they're expecting you to just pull content out of nowhere and capture their voice by Thursday, then listen to this video with Melissa Harstine. She's going to help you figure out what type of content to be posting and how to collect it from your clients' customers. This will set you up for success. The work you do to talk to the customer to figure out, is this program even viable? What do people want? What pain points does it solve? It all starts with this research. So fill everyone in on what this really is.
It's one of those steps that if you do it well, it's going to make you actually more efficient and effective in all of the content and copy that you're creating. Because when you really understand who your best customer is and can get inside their head, then you can write content or copy that feels like you're reading their mind. And I think also that a lot of times when people think about knowing your ideal customer, they tend to lean on demographics. Think like, my ideal client is in her 30s and she wears yoga pants and shops at Target and has 2 kids, and those details that are like external observable traits. Whereas I really go deep in the psychographics. So those are the things like, why does somebody want the thing that they want? The more you understand your ideal customer, the more you can speak to that one person, the better the odds are that they're going to say yes.
So you're talking to many different people in this process and coming up with themes, right?
Yeah. So things like I want to know is like, what are their pain points? Like, what are the things that they're struggling with? What is the motivation behind it? I'm also looking for things like, what hesitations do they have? Where is their friction in the buying process? I think that's one of the biggest opportunities that we have to improve our sales conversions when we're creating content and copy is just being aware of like what's going on in the customer's head. Like, where is their friction in the buying process?
Oh my gosh, I love that. And that just directs your content strategy. When is the best time to be interviewing people?
I think it's best to interview people just a couple months after the course is launched. The reasons that people decided to make the purchase are really going to be fresh and top of mind for them. Because if you wait too long, you may ask, what was going on in your mind when you first started thinking about learning about a topic like this or joining a course like this, and they may not remember if it's been too long. But also, it's a good time if you're seeing a decrease in your conversion rates and you've launched that course several times. And so that's where you can go in and talk with your customers and figure out like what is top of mind for them today.
Now, is this something that you're using as testimonials and case studies, or is this more of the groundwork?
It's primarily the groundwork, but one of the kind of ways that you can repurpose it after the fact is turning it into testimonials and case studies.
So what is the sweet spot with number of interviews?
I typically do 10 interviews, and I'll do a mix of both customers and people who showed interest but decided not to buy.
So you're saying that it's so important to interview people who don't buy, which is freaking genius. I hope everyone listening is getting a light bulb moment. But how is this different than the post why did you buy survey?
Yeah, so surveys, it's hard, especially that type of survey. It's really hard to get people to actually answer it. But what I recommend when you're interviewing non-buyers is extending like a one-to-one invitation to them to just hop on a quick call. So maybe go back through like your Instagram DMs, for example, and see who is asking questions. Or, if you're doing like a webinar, like looking through the chat transcript or the Facebook group, like comments, right? And saying like, who is asking a whole bunch of questions and then decided not to join the course or program, message those people directly and say, hey, this is not a sales call. Make that very clear. I'm just interested in like learning more about, why people are interested in this course or not interested so that I can better serve my audience. Would you be interested in just hopping on a quick 30-minute Zoom call with me? And I think it's if you're super clear and doing that one-to-one invite, people will be more likely to say yes and hop on that call with you.
But what can we say to get somebody to be on the call?
Yeah, because sometimes the hardest part of doing these interviews is just getting people on the call in the first place. So how do you do that? And as you mentioned, I have this freebie that I'm giving away with my email template that I use when I'm sending out requests to do interviews. So you can get that at bit.ly/unicorns-unite. And I know that direct link will be in the show notes as well. But I not only give you the words to use in the email, but why it works. Because when you understand why it works, you can then apply that to, other, even if you're just asking someone in a chat like you and I are right now, hey, would you be interested in doing this interview? You know how to phrase that request in a way that's more likely to get a yes.
So once they book, do you have any insight on how to conduct this interview?
So I always recommend recording the interview, whether it's on something like Zoom or Google Meet, whatever your normal video platform is, and then create a transcript of the conversation as well. Not only do you want to record the video, but when you can see their words like staring back at you, like in this transcript after the fact, it's a lot easier to go back and find those trends, right? I like to just like highlight, like, this is a really juicy quote, and I could turn this into, a really awesome Instagram reel, for example, or this is a really deep pain point, and I saw this like 3 different places in 3 different interviews. So I might highlight that in the Google Doc transcript and like leave a comment to myself with, hey, pay attention, like this is a trend going on, right? So having that transcript is really, really important to this process.
Oh, I love that. And then I like to turn around and use those exact words as a subject line or a hook on Instagram. And that's when people are like, write me back and they're like, this was so me. Okay, can you give us like one of your juiciest questions that you like to ask on interviews?
Yeah, the question I always start with is, take me back to the day when you first started thinking about XYZ. What was happening? And there's several reasons I ask that question. One is simply that it just puts me at ease, because if I ask it every time, I don't have to like feel awkward about like, what am I going to say? How are we going to start this conversation? Right? Again, it's one of those like friction points in actually getting the interviews done is like, I don't want to feel awkward. So if you ask the same question every time, straight up, it's easy. But the other reason that this question in particular is so effective is because it really anchors the person that you're talking to in a specific moment in time, right? Like, take me back to that day when you first started thinking about this. So it also reveals the customer journey, because they may have started thinking about it 2 years ago or 6 months ago or whatever, but they didn't actually make the decision to buy until much, much later.
What does your deliverable look like?
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 parts to this final strategic recommendations report that I create. And the first section is just kind of these high level insights, like I just mentioned. For example, your audience is very seasonal. So I recommend that you do some kind of a marketing campaign in the fall to seed that idea when they're at their moment of like heightened awareness, heightened pain, of their problem. So it's things like that. And then the second part of it is this messaging guide, where I'm kind of capturing all of these pain points, all of these desires, these hesitations, these real transformations and outcomes in one place.
So what's another good tip you have for creating content with this ICA research?
I think that a lot of times we're scrolling through Instagram and everything sounds the exact same. Or we've been in business for a few years and it just all of a sudden our content starts to sound really robotic. And by doing these interviews, you can get really fresh, unique, like standout ways of explaining a concept, or really unique stories that make your reader go, oh, I get it, this makes sense now.
So my big question for you, what does our audience need to hear from us now before they're ready to buy? What kind of content should we be putting out there so they're ready to buy?
One good thing to be aware of is whether your audience is primarily driven by solving a problem and dealing with a pain point, or are they driven by the desire to take something good and make it even better? Like, knowing where your audience is starting from is so key, so that you can match not just the language, but the tone to where they're at.
Oh my gosh, any parting words when it comes to customer insights?
Start before you think you're ready. It really is the thing that can help you work smarter, not harder, because this toolbox that you have, it's like a Swiss Army knife. You're not just gathering the interviews, you're not just gathering the quotes, you're not just gathering these trends, right, of like what the pain points, friction is in the buying process, but you're giving yourself a place to go back to find a treasure trove of stories, of examples. And not only that, you not only have the information, you know how to put that in front of your ideal client in a way that makes it more likely that they're going to say yes faster, which improves your sales and just makes you happier because you're working with more perfect fit students.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, go grab Melissa's freebie in the description and then head over to Unicorns Unite, the podcast, and listen to the full episode.